It's June 1942 in the Pacific Ocean. On paper, a massive naval fleet looks invincible, but overwhelming military strength rarely collapses all at once. It shatters in narrow, irreversible windows of time. The Imperial Japanese Navy, fresh off a streak of victories across Asia, wants to force a final confrontation. Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto has designed a trap. He plans to lure the United States Navy toward Midway Atoll, surround them, and destroy the remaining American carriers. But the United States possesses an advantage that outweighs raw firepower. American cryptanalysts have intercepted Japanese naval traffic and identified Midway as the target. Admiral Chester Nimitz knows exactly where Yamamoto is heading. This information removes the element of surprise. Success now depends on synchronization, whether the Americans can time their arrival to hit the Japanese fleet when it is most exposed. At dawn on June 4th, the Japanese striking force arrives undetected and launches an immediate bombing run over Midway Island. They inflict heavy damage, but the attack fails to completely neutralize the island's airfield. American planes are still airborne and operational. Because the airstrip is still functioning, the Japanese commander must decide whether to launch a second wave against the island or prepare for a potential naval engagement. Leaving the airstrip operational forces a pause. This delay disrupts the Japanese schedule, creating a ripple effect through the fleet's defensive preparations. Admiral Nagumo faces a dilemma. He can immediately launch a second strike to finish off the island, or he can rearm his aircraft with anti-ship weapons to defend against American carriers. He chooses to rearm. Rearming is a labor-intensive process. Inside the hangars, fuel lines are opened. Crews must manually wheel heavy bombs and torpedoes across the decks to swap them out. This transition creates a window of vulnerability. Moving raw explosives and high-octane fuel in an enclosed space turns these armored warships into highly combustible targets. By pausing to switch his weapon loadouts, Nagumo unintentionally leaves his carriers in a state of peak physical exposure. While the Japanese fleet is rearming, the Americans are struggling to coordinate their strike. Inaccurate coordinates and communication delays prevent the squadrons from arriving as a single, unified force. They arrive in fragmented waves. Slow, low-flying torpedo bombers reach the fleet first, attacking without the protection of high-altitude fighter escorts. Japanese Zero fighters easily intercept them. Within minutes, entire American squadrons are shot down, failing to score a single hit on the carriers. This firefight changes the layout of the battle. Japanese fighters descend rapidly from high altitude to sea level to chase the torpedo bombers. The upper airspace directly above the Japanese carriers is now left completely unprotected. At that exact second, American dive bombers arrive. They approach from the unprotected blind spot in the clouds, plummeting straight down toward the carrier decks. They arrive while the Japanese rearming process is still underway. The decks are still crowded with fuel lines and unsecured ordnance. The bombs ignite the exposed fuel and weapons. Secondary explosions destroy 3 major carriers, the Akagi, Kaga, and Soryu, in less than 5 minutes. This outcome was the result of overlapping events: Nagumo's delay, the fragmented torpedo attacks that drew the fighters away, and the precise arrival of the dive bombers. The last remaining Japanese carrier, the Hiryu, launches a counterattack before it is located and destroyed by nightfall. By the end of the day, Japan has lost 4 carriers, hundreds of aircraft, and thousands of personnel, including many of its most experienced pilots. Japan's offensive capability never recovers. As its carrier strength shrinks, American industrial capacity begins to push the front line of the Pacific War steadily westward. The Battle of Midway demonstrates the mechanics of high-stakes conflict. Victory was decided by the side that recognized and exploited the narrow moments when a complex system becomes vulnerable under pressure.